Vasudevaya Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, Chapter 2, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 87 onwards. Vriddhartha kaha tumi kahite kararosha, tomara arthe avimrishta vidheyansha dosha. You say something contradictory and become angry when this is pointed out. Your explanation has a defect of a misplaced predicate. This is an unconsidered adjustment. So you say something means a conditioned soul. In the previous verse, it was described the four kinds of defects are in conditioned souls. They are mistakes, illusions, cheating, and imperfect senses. Yara Bhagavata Haite Anyara Bhagavata Swayam Bhagavan Shabder Tahate Satta. Only the personality of Godhead, the source of all other divinities, is eligible to be designated Swayam Bhagavan, or the primeval Lord. So, source of all other divinities, that is Bhagavan. Deepa Haite Yache Bahu Deepe Rajwalan Mula Eka Deepa Taha Kariye Ganam. When from one candle many others are lit, I consider that one the original. The Brahma Samhita chapter 5 verse 46 states that the Vishnu Tattva, or the principle of the absolute personality of Godhead, is like a lamp because the expansions equal their origin in all respects. A burning lamp can light innumerable other lamps, and although they will not be inferior, still the lamp from which the others are lit must be considered the original. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself in the plenary forms of the Vishnu Tattva. And although they are equally powerful, the original powerful personality of Godhead is considered the source. So equally powerful, they all Vishnu Tattva, they all have same energy. But original powerful personality of Godhead is the source. This example also explains the appearance of qualitative incarnations like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Shambhu Tattva, or the principle of Lord Shiva, is like a lamp covered with carbon because of his being in charge of the mode of ignorance. The illumination from such a lamp is very minute. Therefore, the power of Lord Shiva cannot compare to that of Vishnu principle or Vishnu Tattva. Nicely explained by Srila Jiva Goswami. So Lord Shiva, here Jiva Goswami said, because of his being in charge of the mode of ignorance, doesn't mean he comes under the mode of ignorance. Never says that. He's in charge. So because of that, being in charge of mode of ignorance, his illumination is minute. Taiche sab avatarera Krishna sekara are ek shloka shun ko vyakhya khandan. Krishna in the same way is the cause of all causes and all incarnations. Please hear another verse to defeat all misinterpretations. Atra sargo viragascha sthanam poshnam utaya manvantareshan katha nirodho muktirashraya dasham shaya vishuddhyartham navanam ih lakshanam varnayanti mahatmana shutenarthena chanjasa. Here in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10 subjects are described. First, the creation of the ingredients of the cosmos. 2, the creations of Brahma. 3, the maintenance of the creation. 4, special favor given to the faithful. 5, impetuses for activity. 6, prescribed duty for law-abiding men. 7, a description of the incarnations of the Lord. 8. The winding up of the creation. 9. Liberation from gross and subtle material existence. And 10. The ultimate shelter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The 10th item is the shelter of all the others. To distinguish this ultimate shelter from other 9 subjects, the Mahajans have described these 9 directly or indirectly through prayers or direct explanations. So 10th is the ultimate shelter or ashraya. These verses from Srimad Bhagavatam list the 10 subject matters dealt within the text of the Bhagavatam. Of these, the 10th is the substance, and other 9 are categories derived from the substance. The 10 subject matters are listed as follows. 1 is Sarga, the first creation by Vishnu, the bringing forth of the 5 gross material elements, 5 objects of sense perception, the 10 senses, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and the total material energy or universal form. Second, Visarga, the secondary creation or the work of Brahma in producing the moving and unmoving bodies in the universe or Brahmanda. Third is Sthana, the maintenance of the universe by the personality of Godhead Vishnu. Vishnu's function is more important and his glory greater than Brahma's and Lord Shiva's. For although Brahma is the creator and Lord Shiva the destroyer, Vishnu is the maintainer. 5 is portion, special care and protection for devotees by the Lord. As a king maintains his kingdom and subjects, but nevertheless gives a special attention to the members of his family, so the personality of Godhead gives special care to his devotees whose souls completely surrendered to him. 5. Uti, the urge for creation or initiative power. That is the cause of all inventions, according to the necessities of time, space, and objects. 6 is Manvantar, the periods controlled by the Manus, who teach regulative principles for living beings who desire to achieve perfection in human life. The rules of Manu, as described in the Manu Samhita, guide the way to such perfection. 7. Ishanukatha, scriptural information regarding the personality of Godhead, his incarnations on earth, and the activities of his devotees. Scriptures dealing with these subjects are essential for progressive human life. 8. Nirodha, the winding up of all energies employed in creation. Such potencies are emanations from the personality of Godhead, who eternally lies in the Karan ocean. The cosmic creations manifested with his breath are again dissolved in due course. 9 is Mukti, liberation of the conditioned souls encaged by the gross and subtle coverings of mind and body. When freed from all material affection, the soul, giving up the gross and subtle material bodies, can attain the spiritual sky in its original spiritual body and engage in transcendental loving service to the Lord in Vaikuntha Loka or Krishna Loka. When the soul is situated in his original constitutional position of existence, he is said to be liberated. It is possible to engage in transcendental loving service to the Lord and become a Jivan Mukta, a liberated soul, even while in the material body. 10. Ashraya, the transcendence, the summum mode, from whom everything emanates, upon whom everything rests, and in whom everything merges after annihilation. He is the source and support of all. The Ashraya is also called the Supreme Brahman, as in the Vedanta Sutra, Athata Brahma Jigyasa. So Srimad Bhagavatam especially describes this Supreme Brahman as the Ashraya. Shri Krishna is this Ashraya, and therefore the greatest necessity of life is to study the science of Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam accepts Shri Krishna as a shelter of all manifestations because Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the ultimate source of everything, the supreme goal of all. And then Srimad Bhagavatam is considered Amalapura, means there is no problems, no impurities in this Puran, topmost Puran. Two different principles are to be considered here, namely Ashraya, the object providing shelter, and Ashrita, the dependents requiring shelter. The Ashrita exists because the original principle, the Ashraya. The first 9 categories described in the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, from creation to liberation, including the Purusha avatars, incarnations, the marginal energy, or living entities, and the external energy of material world, are all Ashrita. I mean, they're all dependent on one Ashraya, Krishna. The prayers of Srimad Bhagavatam, however, aim for the Ashraya Tattva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The great souls, expert in describing Srimad Bhagavatam, have very diligently delineated the other 9 categories, sometimes by direct narrations and sometimes by indirect narrations, such as stories. The real purpose of doing this is to know perfectly the absolute transcendence, Sri Krishna, for the entire creation. Both material and spiritual rests on the body of Sri Krishna. So yes, these 10 subject matters are there. If somebody can memorize them, great. Otherwise, we should know these 10 subject. Bhagavatam deals with these 10 subject matters. And the 10th or the topmost subject matter is Ashraya, which is Shri Krishna. So Krishna is the origin of all, is the source, is the maintainer of all. Ashraya janite kahiye nav padartha, ei navir utpatti hetu sei ashrayartha. To know distinctly the ultimate shelter of everything that I have described the other 9 categories. The cause for the appearance of these 9 is rightly called their shelter. Krishna eka sarvashraya, Krishna sarvadham, Krishnera sharire sarva vishvera vishraham. The personality of God, Shri Krishna, is the shelter and abode of everything. All the universes rest in his body. Dashame dashmam lakshyam ashritashraya vigraham Shri Krishna kyam param dhama jagat dhama namami tat. The 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam reveals the 10th object, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is a shelter of all surrendered souls. He is known as Shri Krishna, and he is the ultimate source of all the universes. Let me offer my obeisances unto him. So this quotation comes from Srila Swami's commentary on the first verse of 10th canto, chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishnera Swarupa Ara Shakti Traya Gyan, Yara Haya Tara Nahi Krishnete Agyan. One who knows the real feature of Shri Krishna and his 3 different energies cannot remain ignorant about him. Srila Jiva Goswami states in his Bhagavad Sandarbha that by his potencies, which act in natural sequences beyond the scope of the speculative human mind, the supreme transcendence, the summum bonum, eternally and simultaneously exists in 4 transcendental features: his personality, his impersonal effulgence, particles of his potencies, the living beings, and the principal cause of all causes. The supreme whole is compared to the sun, which also exists in 4 features, namely the personality of the sun god, the glare of his glowing sphere, the sun rays inside the sun planet, and the sun's reflections in many other objects. The ambition to corroborate the existence of the transcendental absolute truth by limited conjectural endeavors cannot be fulfilled because he is beyond the scope of our limited speculative minds. In an honest search for truth, we must admit that his powers are inconceivable to our tiny brains. The exploration of space has demanded the work of the great scientists of the world. Yet there are countless problems regarding even fundamental knowledge of the material creation that bewilder scientists who confront them. Such material knowledge is far removed from the spiritual nature, and therefore the acts and arrangements of the absolute truth are, beyond all doubts, inconceivable. So this is something that until we understand he is inconceivable, we cannot conceive of him. It's impossible. The primary potencies of the absolute truth are mentioned to be three: internal, external, and marginal. By the acts of his internal potency, the personality of Godhead in his original form exhibits the spiritual cosmic manifestations known as the Vaikuntha Lokas, which exist eternally even after the destruction of the material cosmic manifestation. By his marginal potency, the Lord expands himself as living beings who are part of him, just as the sun distributes its rays in all directions. By his external potency, the Lord manifests the material creation, just as the sun with its rays creates fog. The material creation is but a perverse reflection of the eternal Vaikuntha nature. So three energies are described here. These three energies of the absolute truth are also described in the Vishnu Puran, where it is said that the living being is equal in quality to the internal potency, whereas the external potency is indirectly controlled by the chief cause of all causes. Maya, the illusory energy, misleads a living being as fog misleads a pedestrian by blocking off the light of the sun. Although the potency of Maya is inferior in quality to the marginal potency of the living being, which consists of the living beings who are part and parcel of the Lord, it nevertheless has a power to control the living beings, just as fog can block the actions of a certain portion of the sun's rays, although it cannot cover the sun. It's nicely explained. So if we are like pedestrians just walking on the road, and fog in Delhi, we all have experience of fog. So fog covers, so we get some distracted by the fog, or disturbed by the fog. But fog cannot cover the sun, it can only cover that pedestrian. So Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord. Maya can only cover us. But when it covers, and it has a power to cover or control, so it disturbs us, that's all. The living beings covered by the illusory energy evolve in different species of life, with bodies ranging from that of an insignificant ant to that of Brahma, to the constructor of the cosmos. The Pradhan, the chief cause of all causes in the impersonal vision, is none other than the Supreme Lord, whom one can see face to face in the internal potency. He takes the material, all-pervasive form by his inconceivable power. Although all three potencies, namely internal, external, and marginal, are essentially one in the ultimate cause, they're different in action, like electric energy, which can produce both cold and heat under different conditions. So internal, external, marginal, they all, source is only Krishna. They all come from Krishna. But their actions are completely different. The external and marginal potencies are so called under various conditions, but in the original internal potencies, there are no such conditions. Nor is it possible for the conditions of the external potency to exist in the marginal or vice versa. One who is able to understand the intricacies of all these energies of the Supreme Lord can no longer remain an empiric philosopher under the influence of a poor fund of knowledge. Little technical. So one who is able to understand means the living entity whose marginal energy, he can understand the intricacies. And the external energy, it's only darkness or foggy nature. Internal energy, there are no such conditions that heat or light or whatever. It's all spiritual. So marginal energy, living entities, we have a choice where to go. We have to choose that whether we want to live in the material, in the external energy or internal. But that's what Prabhupada says. One who has understood the intricacies, he can no longer remain in ignorance. But what's the point in living in the external energy? Krishnera Swarupera hai Shadavida Vilas Parabhav Vaibhav Rupe Dvivida Prakash. The personality of God, Shri Krishna, enjoys himself in 6 primary expansions. His 2 manifestations are Parabhav and Vaibhav. Again, this is huge topic actually. Now the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita turns to a description of the personality of Godhead Krishna in his innumerable expansions. The Lord primarily expands himself in 2 categories, namely Parabhav and Vaibhav. The Parabhav forms are fully potent, like Sri Krishna, and the Vaibhav forms are partially potent. The Prabhav forms are manifested in relation with potencies, but the Vaibhav forms are manifested in relation with excellences. The potent Parabhav manifestations are of 2 varieties, temporary and eternal. The Mohini, Hansa, and Shukla forms are manifested only temporarily in terms of a particular age. Among the other Parabhavs who are not very famous according to material estimation are Dhanvantari, Rishabh, Vyas, Dattatreya, and Kapil. Among the Vaibhav Prakash forms are Kurma, Matsya, Narnarayan, Vara, Hayagriva, Prishnikar, Baldev, Yagya, Vibhu, Satyasen, Hari, Vaikuntha, Jita, Vaman, Sarvabhauma, Rishabh, Vishwaksen, Dharmasetu, Sudhama, Yogeshwar, and Brihadapan. So just go with this because it will be covered in detail later on. And then again, Ansha Sakya Vesha Rupe Dvividhavantara Vidhavatara Balya Poganda Dharma Dvaita Prakara. His incarnations are of 2 kinds, namely partial and empowered. He appears in 2 ages, childhood and boyhood. So the Vilas forms are 6 in number. Incarnations are of 2 varieties, namely Shaktavesh, empowered, and Anshavesh, partial. These incarnations also come within the category of Parabhav and Vaibhav manifestations. Childhood and boyhood are 2 special features of the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna. But his permanent feature is his eternal form as an adolescent youth. The original personality of God, Shri Krishna, is always worshipped in this eternal adolescent form. Navakishore, Nitya Kishore. Kishora Swarupa Krishna Swayam Avatari, Krida Kare Eichai Rupe Vishwadhari. The personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, who is eternally an adolescent, is the primeval Lord, the source of all incarnations. He expands himself in these 6 categories of forms to establish his supremacy throughout the universe. That's the reason he appears like that. Eichai Rupe Hai Ananta Viveda, Ananta Rupe Eka Rupa Nahi Kichu Veda. In these 6 kinds of forms, there are innumerable varieties. Although there are many, they're all one. There is no difference between them. So the personality of Godhead manifests himself in 6 different features: Parabhav, Vaibhav, empowered, Shaktavesh, partial, Swansha, childhood, and boyhood. The personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, whose permanent feature is adolescence, enjoys his transcendental proclivities by performing pastimes in these 6 forms. In these 6 features, there are unlimited divisions of the personality of Godhead's forms. The jivas or living beings are differentiated parts and parcels of the Lord. They are all diversities of the one without a second, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I guess we are confused enough, so we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? And also, this is the reason Prabhupada chose to write his commentary on Chaitanya Charitamrita. not on Chaitanya Mangal or Chaitanya Bhagavad, because this has philosophy, some philosophy in the beginning. Later on, it's pastimes, but in the beginning, there was some philosophy.
So much of detail, Prabhuji. आप एक
अभी
लाइन में
और
अभी बहुत बहुत डिटेल से सुन रही हूँ, पढ़ भी रही हूँ, एंड देन सेकंड लाइन में पहली वाली भूल जाती है.
I know, और अभी और आएगी आगे चल के, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks to Sanatana Goswami, all these things, Parava, Weber, Prakash, Vilas, they'll all come in much detail later on. I wish somebody can make a chart of it and present it.
Oh, yes.
वो chapters पढ़ते पढ़ते मैं कितनी बार सो गया हूँ. It's very confusing.
I was just, बहुत ध्यान से सुन रही हूँ, पढ़ रही हूँ, बट फिर भूल जाता है, फिर वापस जाती हूँ, फिर तब तक वो नेक्स्ट लोग आ जाता है.
Yeah. But this is what actually it should create some appreciation for scriptures and Krishna. Not an ordinary person like in the movies or TV serials they depict him. He is not that.
Yes, probably.
And to understand all this, it's not easy. It's not easy.
I think I have to read everything twice or thrice, Prabhuji, to make feel of it.
Mataji is with
Yes,
everyone.
True. True, Mata, true. Very much true. Chalo, I guess we can stop here. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Jai Shila Prabhupada.